I don't know what has happened, but I can't hear anything anymore. Everything just stopped. Hmm. I have no idea if you can hear me or not. I hear absolutely nothing. It is like complete silence. Hmm. Let me do this. Hmm. You go right on ahead. I'm going to see if I can figure out what's going on my end.
Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me or not. I really apologize for the technical errors we're having. I know. I'm trying to fix it. Hear me or not. Okay. All right. So, good evening, everybody. Thanks again for listening. I apologize for the technical difficulties we've been having. Miss Briana Cabell, AKA Ms. Breezy from the Uplift Show, is supposed to be participating in our host-to-host special. So she might jump back in. We're trying to figure out what the technical difficulties are. But in the meantime, I did want to introduce our topic for the night. So again, please let me know whether or not you can hear me. I can difficulties we've been having. I can definitely repeat if you want me to. But in the meantime, I want to talk a little bit about. I want to share some of the announcements that I have with you guys. In the meantime, while she's in the process of getting things situated with her audio and with her mic, so that we can all, move forward. So I have a couple of announcements to make. One of the announcements that I would like to make is that I am officially done for the fall semester. I'm officially done with the fall semester. It has been a hectic semester for me this fall. I'm so glad that I have had the opportunity to just chill now instead of worrying about all my classes and trying to just maneuver through all of the changes that I've had to make this fall, all of the adjustments that I've had to make. Financially, emotionally, mentally. It's just been really, really challenging, but I've managed to persevere. So I want to thank everybody for all of the prayers and all of the support through this rough semester. I'm in the process of moving forward to the next semester. And I just hope and pray for, many more blessings. And I just I thank you guys again for all of the support. I'm now 3 months in to the Beauty in Us radio. I'm starting to get to the hang of things. I feel like I'm starting to become a professional in terms of, I've just had such amazing guests on my show, and I just cover a wide variety of subjects. But this one subject that I wanted to talk about in particular with our first host-to-host special in this case with Miss Briana Cabell, aka Ms. Breezy from the Uplift Show. I this is yes, this is definitely something that I've been looking forward to from the very beginning. We're going to talk a little bit about Black authors and what it means to be a Black author. And just in case you haven't noticed, the title of this broadcast I gave was Black Authors Matter. So I did want to open the conversation up a little bit with Miss Breezy. I know that you released one of your new books. I think a few months ago. I know that you released a book that you've recently written. So I would like for you to tell us a little bit about this new book that you've written, because you're a pretty much seasoned author now. You've written several books. You have your own book publishing company. So you have pretty much mastered this whole process. So I wanted to just dive deep, take a dive into, what your book is about. Because, I've heard, about it on other platforms, but I would like for you to share this with my listeners. What is your book about, and why you decided to write and publish it?
Well, first and foremost, I thank you tremendously for thinking enough of me to have me take up your time here on the Beauty in Us radio. And you said this is going into your third month, and I have been right here with you these 3 months, and I have definitely seen you grow and change and evolve into what you're doing, and I give you mad props for that. I am so proud of you. I, feel like we all had the AGR little baby bird in our hand, and we let him off to fly, and he just spread his wings and took off. And well, I'm telling you, from the AGR family, we are just absolutely proud of you, and we're happy to have you as part of the AGR family.
Yes, absolutely, and I thank you guys for having me. I definitely, and like I said from the very beginning, and I continue to say, over and over again, I created this platform for young Black men to provide them with a voice on subjects that matter, because I felt as though the media really didn't showcase that much, and I felt like our people, young men and boys that look like me, need an outlet to um, just express themselves and discover who they are. And that was my whole purpose of creating this platform. And I can see now that even within the few months that I've been doing this, I see how my community has grown. New listeners are tuning in, whether it's from Instagram, whether it's from Facebook, whether it's from Periscope, or all of the channels. I've been able to touch a lot of people already. So, and I know that, with the AGR family, I know that this Host to Host special definitely moves and brings about change in a positive way. So, again, I know that you've released a book. You have a book publishing company, and like I said, you're pretty much seasoned author now. You've written several books already, in several genres. So, could you just tell us about, the book that you've recently, written and published a couple months
Absolutely.
ago?
Okay. The book that I've just released, and this is I hope you all can see it. I don't know how well you can see it, but it is called From Chasing Shadows to Catching Dreams, The Tale of a Phoenix. And if you don't know what a phoenix is a bird that has risen out of the ashes, that has truly been through the fire and has now come out as pure gold. A phoenix is me. Me is the phoenix, and I am the phoenix because I have been through. It's always amazing to me when people say such wonderful, nice things about me. Oh, you're such a great author, and you're a great host, and you seem to have it all together and all this stuff. And I look at them like they're crazy. I said, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, but I thank you. And I thank God for allowing me to put my best face forward. As we often say, I'm so glad I don't look like what I've been through. But even though I don't look like what I've been through, what this book represents is what I have been through. These pages are truly my story. Now, you would call this maybe a memoir or an autobiography. I call it an autobiographical project, meaning that this does not start beginning, middle, end. This starts at the beginning, but it ends pretty much when the Lord told me to end. I have been through many challenges. I've had more than one emotional and nervous breakdown. I have been through a lot of emotional stress. I've been through some very traumatic events. And I pretty much concentrated on one particular event in my life that spans the pages of this book. When I was a very young child, I was in the second grade. I was 7 years old. Obviously, I will never forget. I was attacked and molested by some strange creep in in an elevator, and that event truly changed my life. But the issue when a child has a life changing event is that a child has not yet lived long enough to know that their life has been changed. So my attitude changed, my peace changed, my relationship towards men changed, my relationship towards women, towards myself changed. Everything changed, but I was not mature enough to had already developed those relationships in the first place. So I kind of started off on a crooked path. And that path took me here and there and hither and yon until eventually around the age of 23 I had a breakdown. And so that is the combination of everything that has happened. That's the apex of this book is what brought me to that breakdown and how the Lord brought me out of
Yes, I can definitely see how our traumatic events that and how our emotional breakdowns and our nervous breakdowns and just the events that happen, just what transpire in our lives. I can definitely see how that can either make or break us in certain situations, and it definitely, especially as a child, it definitely has an impact on how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others as we're growing up in the world and as we're just looking at the world from a different perspective as we continue to age. So I know that you don't really. I know you just said that you don't really have a specific genre where this particular book actually falls under. So what do you think? Because my show is about youth empowerment and it's inspiring young people, and I know that the work that you've done in the school system in the past has impacted young people. So what could you how could this book help a young person or a person who has experienced any traumatic events in their lives in terms of, because some people are still stuck in a state where they feel like they're being victimized all over again by just thinking about that traumatic event or reliving it, reimagining it. So what could you do, or how could this book help a young person throughout their journey if they've lived through a traumatic event, or if they continue to relive is something that is really, really detrimental to their mind, their body, their spirit, and their other forms of health. How can this book help a young person in that state?
it. It is my fervent prayer that everything that I've been through can help somebody else for what they've been through. If it doesn't, then my living will have been in vain. And because most of my experiences started as such a young child, I've dedicated a good portion of my life to working with young children. I've been in early childhood education for 20 years now. I have worked with everything from newborns up till 12th grade. I've been in the city school systems. I've been in private schools. I've been in Montessori schools. I've been in daycare. I've been in ECE centers. I've been everywhere and done just about everything. But my goal does not change. My goal is simply to protect our children. Now, I, as one person or even a parent, cannot, we can't shield our children from the world, unfortunately. We have to allow them to experience things. And sometimes those experiences aren't good. Sometimes those experiences are painful. Sometimes they are detrimental. Sometimes they are almost deadly. But what this book can do, and what I hope it can do, is to begin to help young people, especially, understand what they've been through. One of my biggest issues was that I went through an experience and then it was immediately swept up under the rug because nobody around me, including myself, knew how to handle it. So because we didn't know how to handle it, it didn't get handled. And that is, I found that also is prevalent within the Christian community because we tend to have this attitude of, well, we just pray on it and it goes away, or let's just lay it at the feet of Jesus, lay your burdens at the cross and never pick them up again. And those are wonderful things. Prayer is beautiful. Spirituality is phenomenal. That having that one-on-one relationship with the Creator is something that is irreplaceable. However, we are triunal beings. We are mind, we are body, and we are spirit. And sometimes your body is just fine. Sometimes your spirit is just fine. But it can be that your emotions or your mental state is not fine. And that doesn't have anything to do with rolling around under altar. That doesn't have anything to do with changing your diet and exercising and trying to get your revenge body or whatever it is that they call it. Those things are not going to help your mental state. So we have to come to a place where we are comfortable talking about our mental state, that we're comfortable talking about our emotions. About, oh, I would say about 20 years ago, I used to be a caterer as well. I love to cook. And I had two big jobs on one day. I ended up having a graduation party and a wedding both on the same day. And I was just extremely busy the night before, of course, just cooking and preparing and doing all this stuff. And I was slicing a huge 35-pound piece of beef. I was slicing it with an electric knife. And the knife got dull, and I'm trying to sharpen the knife. And as I'm trying to sharpen it, I ended up slicing right through my index finger, and I cut an artery. And I know some people are wondering, what in the world does that have to do with anything? Give me a minute, I'll get there. This is why Nelson gave me the hour because he knows I talk a lot, but I always come around to my point. Uh, I was so busy that I really couldn't take care of it. I just wrapped it up in some paper towels and kept on going until finally I got everything in the oven and what I needed to do. And I got to the emergency room, and it was maybe about 1 o'clock in the morning. They didn't call me back until 5 o'clock in the morning. And they were trying to numb me and everything to put the stitches in. I said, I don't have time for this. The numbing wasn't working. They said, just put in the stitches. I gotta go. So they put in the stitches, and the medical assistant said to me, you cut an artery here, and I think we actually opened it back up, and but you're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to do that. He said, okay, this is what I want you to do. Keep it covered for the next few days to keep it protected. But after that time, you're going to have to take the covering off to allow it to heal. You have to let it breathe or it will not heal properly. And I've never forgotten that piece of medical advice because I've taken it from one place to another. It was medical advice, but also emotional and spiritual advice. When something happens to us, it is imperative that we protect ourselves emotionally first. When something happens, you can't just go running off telling Tom, Dick, and Harry all your business because that makes it worse. However, after you've taken time, you have to take the covering off of that wound or it will not heal properly. Any dime store doctor will tell you that an improperly healed wound will become infected. And once that infection gets into your bloodstream, it will kill you. So I have had to learn to keep myself protected when it's important, but it's even more important to take those coverings off, to let those wounds heal. And I hope and I pray that with this book, someone else will say, you know what, I've been holding on to something. I haven't dealt with something that happened to me. Maybe it's time for me to open it up too. And once they open it up, they will begin to get that healing that we all need. We cannot go through life wounded. We must be healed. And I hope that this book is somebody's first step to a healing. I know it was mine.
Yes, absolutely. I know that healing is a lot of things, but I know that healing is definitely not easy. And I do know that oftentimes when something traumatic happens, we don't know how to we don't initially know how to respond to traumatic events that happen. We're not really given the tools, we're not always given the tools or the techniques in order to how to cope with that, or even handle those types of situations. And I know that you said that your book, this particular book, it definitely aided you in the process of healing and restoring your mind, your body, your spirit. And right now, I mean, it opens yourself up, and your willingness to be vulnerable is something that a lot of people aren't willing to do. And it demonstrates a lot of courage in terms of telling your story, sharing your testimony with others. And it also it shows how there's beauty in, a person that's flawed, in a sense where, um, you know, you know, God's not going to use you if you're perfect. If you have a perfect story, or if you have a perfect upbringing, or if everything is, or if nothing's wrong, you're not going to be used by God in order to, um, be a blessing to someone else, because nobody can really relate to that. People can relate to your brokenness in a way. People can relate to the healing process that you may have experienced or you may have gone through. You writing about it, for instance, writing and creating content that uplifts others, that motivates others to be better and to do better, is something that everybody needs. And I know that you have. I was reading your bio, and I know that you have like I said, you're pretty much a seasoned author at this point, because you've written several books. You started a book publishing company. You know everything from the editing process to what the content is supposed to look like and what's marketable or not, and from self-publishing and everything else. So I know that you've started Elohim Multimedia. So I know that that's the book publishing company that you started, and that you use to publish books, not just for your own purpose, but in order to discover other authors, and in order to give them a platform where they can share their story, and so that they can share their testimony, and to give them an outlet to bless others. So how did you go about just coming up with the idea of starting a book publishing company? Because it's something that I want to do later on down the line personally, as I get my foot in the door, as a radio personality and as an author. Because I don't think that I'm seasoned yet. I'm on my third and fourth book, but I feel like once you get to 5, 6, 7, you pretty much know what you're doing by that time. But how did you start that book publishing company, and how do you think, what advice would you give to someone who's willing to start that business?
Well, first of all, I would tell you that you will never know exactly what you're doing. It doesn't work like that. I don't care if you've written 2 books or 200 books, there is always a process. There is a learning that continues from your first word to your last word. So don't ever count yourself short or think, yeah, I'm not ready or I'm not good enough yet. Don't ever think that, because neither is anybody else. I don't care if you're Stephen King, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou, we still all got a lot to learn. That's number one. Now, as far as Elohim Multimedia, I was not looking to start a business. I was not looking to publish or at all. I had at the time, I came up with Elohim, I want to say in around 2004 or so. I might be completely lying about that because I'm not good with dates, but we're just going to say for now, to sake of argument, 2004. Now, I already had 2 books published at that time that I had published through other means. And not only was I working on my own stuff, but I was helping other people with their work as well. I was helping them with their editing. I was helping them with proofreading. I was doing people's websites. I was designing business cards and flyers, and I was helping people write business plans. And I had been doing this for years and never really thought that much about it. It just was something that I do. You ask me for help, I'm going to help. I didn't ask for any money. Nothing like that. I would be up for hours and hours sometimes working on somebody's project, but I never asked for anything because that's just not who I am. Well, one particular watch night service, I was visiting a friend's church, and of course, some people are New Year's resolution people. I am not. I do not give. I do not have a New Year's resolution because I will lie and I'll break it every single time. But what I do at the beginning of the year is I ask the Lord what He would have me to do that year. And the Lord said to me is that I was, kind of in between. I had a job, but I wasn't really feeling it. I was kind of, I was kind of unstable at the time. And I asked the Lord what He wanted me to do, and He said, "Briana, you're already doing what I want you to do. You're just not getting paid for it." And I'm like, "Huh? What? What am I doing?" And that's when He opened my eyes to all of these things that I had been doing every area of publishing, but I was not charging a dime. And the Lord said to me, "The servant is worthy of his hire. What you're doing is a gift, but you still need to make a living. So you take that gift that I have given you and you use it to my glory, and you can sustain yourself." And the word, there are many, many names for God. We call him Yah, we call him Roha, we call him the mighty, we call him the great I am, we call him God, we call him King, we call him all of these things. And each name of God has different meaning. The name Elohim literally means beginning or creator. So the Lord Himself began this work in me. He created this gift in me of Elohim Multimedia, which is how it came to be. Since then, I have published 5 or 6 books on my own that are of my own writing in different genres. I have a couple of fiction books. I've got children's book. I've got nonfiction. I've also got a biblical research piece, which is it's a small book. It actually started out as a research paper for one of my classes, and it's called "Whose Blood Did Christ Shed?" An in-depth look at the bloodline of Jesus and its effects on the modern day body of Christ, where I seek to prove that we are related to Jesus by blood. And so I've done all these for myself. I also have worked with other authors like Dr. Robert Johnson, who has done a phenomenal book on church history and our history as the Black church. We see these depictions of in Hollywood of Moses with his long gray beard and beautiful blue eyes, and Jesus with his long blonde hair hanging on the cross like this. Oh, I'm so sexy. And it's, you know what? It is just ridiculous to see all these, these movies and TV shows and stuff depicting all these white people walking around. And I'm sorry, I have nothing against white people. I like white people. But there are no white people in Egypt. There are no white people in that part of the country. There wasn't then, and there's not now. So, what Dr. Johnson does really is to open our eyes to who we are in the Word of God. And then I've also published works by his wife, who is my pastor, Pastor Jacqueline Faye Saunders Johnson. She has 2 books available. I'm also working with our own Pastor Deborah Burris, who is another personality here on Awesome God Radio. I've worked with other authors who've done um, devotionals and prayer and meditation, all kind of stuff I got going on. And I can go right back to that one night at my friend's church on midnight in 2000 and whatever it was, when the Lord said, "You already doing it. Now just get paid."
Yes, absolutely. And like I said before, I mean, you're already a seasoned author because you have that gift and you have that ability to motivate others and to uplift others with different genres, between fiction and nonfiction, writing children's books and even doing concrete research um, in terms of, figuring out what that bloodline is then that we have, just digging deep and just being as detailed as possible and just trying to get that message across as authentic and as powerful and transparent as possible is something that everybody does not have the ability to do. Everybody does not know how to, create different genres of books in order to get their objective, their overall objective, or that main point across. So that's why I called you a seasoned author, because you have the ability to, because you might come out with anything. Like, okay, you have this book. Okay, you might come out with a children's book next. You might come out with a nonfiction book next. You might decide to make up characters for a book for teenagers or young adults, but with the overall objective of trying to uplift them and motivate them and to get them to be the best person that they can be through the eyes of Jesus Christ, which is the overall objective. um, and all of the work that you do. So, with your experience working in the school system, how has that had an impact on your writing? So, do you use any of your experiences in the school system to write, or even with the work that you do with children, or in the work that you've done with children, how has that had an impact on the work that you do as an author and as a radio personality?
I would have to say that the first thing that comes to mind with that question is my time in the Baltimore City public school system. And that was one of the most stressful times in my entire life. I lasted a year and a half in the public school system and I was done for. I started off as I was a therapeutic aide in the special education section of an elementary school in, I mean, the heart of the city. I mean, in the ghetto, by the ghetto, next to the ghetto, under the ghetto. I mean, I was in the deep, dark city. And this is an elementary school. And the children were so angry. I mean, I was breaking up fights with these kids every day, and not the kind of fights that we had when I was young. He hit me, I'm telling. No, we used to do that kind of stuff when I was in school. No, these children were trying to kill each other.
They were brawling.
Yes, and I was breaking up fights every day. There was, the young children were bringing weapons, guns to school. They were beating up the teachers. The language and the disrespect was rampant, and I could not understand why. I couldn't understand what was going on with these children so young until I met their parents. When I met their parents, I began to understand why the children act the way they do. Now, of course, it would seem like, obviously that's a simple conclusion. Of course, we are, with the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or, you would think that's a very simple conclusion. Well, of course you should have known that. The kids are nuts because the parents are nuts, but it goes so much deeper than that. It is generational. No matter what your lot in life is, it is generational, whether it's positive or negative. Everything we are is shaped by our experiences, and our experiences come from the environment that we live in. And our environment, of course, starts at home. So it is when I sit down to write, especially when I'm writing things like this, especially when I'm writing from the heart, when I'm writing nonfiction, when I'm writing devotionals and things, I try to keep in mind that generational curse. We have to stop whatever it is that is negative, whatever that is not like God, whatever that is painful, whatever that is unsuitable, whatever that is that we have carried from one generation to the next generation, it has to stop. And so I want to give people the tools and the strength to say it stops right here. Because when I think about those children, it makes me angry and it makes me sad, but it's because I've been there. Now, certainly at, 8, 9, 10 years old, I wasn't, cussing and screaming and throwing fits and whatnot. But I acted out in my own way because of the environment I was in. And I'm angry about that. I'm angry that I had to be in a negative environment. And I'm angry that these children now are still in angry environments, that they're still in negative places. That makes me angry. So I take that anger into something that is constructive. And what is constructive is my words. My words are my gift from God. Everybody doesn't share the same gift. Some people use the gift of their voice. Some people are great speakers, and I can speak okay, but some people are great singers. I can sing all right, but that's not my calling. That's not my gifting. Some people, are very hands-on. They're out in the streets with outreach ministries. Every single person has a gift to use. And my gift, the gift of words, comes from my experience. I want to use my experience to help someone else in their experience. When I look at my innocent, beautiful children, I'm a nanny right now. I purposely left the system because I was tired of dealing with the system. I needed to have that one-on-one with my babies. And when my baby right now that I have, one of them is 4 months old. He is the sweetest little honey bun ever. And when I look into those big brown eyes, sometimes I truly want to cry for him because of the world that I know is waiting to devour him. But prayerfully, there's something I can do. There's something I can say. There's something that I can give him that will strengthen him and allow him to overcome the environment that he's been brought into without his own permission. And not that there's anything wrong with his family. He's got a wonderful family. And I hope to add to that environment and to teach, to continue to teach parents that what you live lives on in your seed. I don't know if I actually answered your question because I went off like into a whole other thing. It's so emotional when I think about my children. I don't ever want to see a child have to go through adult situations. That was a big part of my problems is that as a young child I saw adult things. And when you see adult things before you are mentally mature enough to handle it, then you grow up too fast. But you grow up emotionally without growing up mentally. And so I became an old lady as a young child. But those things don't go together. My experiences said I was old, but my maturity said I was just a baby. And so that just kind of that was backwards. It was backwards thinking. And I am still now at the age of 42 trying to put those things back together, trying to put those puzzle pieces back together in the correct order so that I can live and continue to live a fruitful life. It's not easy. I go through some things. It's not always easy to keep my breezy face on. As you mentioned, I thank you for mentioning my show, the Uplift Show that comes on every Thursday at 8 o'clock. That's the Uplift Show with your host Easy Breezy, like Sunday morning, and Breezy comes on and Breezy's smiling and Breezy's happy and Breezy's gonna make you laugh. Breezy's gonna bring it to you. But sometimes Briana don't feel like it. So I have to balance Briana and Breezy. Right now, I'm kind of giving you a mixture of both of us. There's a little bit of Breezy working because Brianna got a headache. So there's a little bit of Breezy that's coming through to overcome the headache. But what I'm simply saying is I have a heart for my children. Every child is my child. I didn't have to give birth to them; they just my child. Somebody, somebody somewhere needs mother's love. And I have an abundance of mother's love to give, and I give it through my words, whether they be verbal words, whether they be written words, whether they be sung words. I like to sing somewhere over the rainbow and all that cute stuff to my little babies and watch them smile and tickle their little toes and everything. And I want them to be able to say one day that they were able to live their childish life, that they weren't thrust into situations that they weren't ready for, that they did not have to endure such mature situations, that they were just able to be a little girl, they were able to be a little boy, they were able to out, scribble on the walls and let and run their little matchbox cars under people's feet so they fall on their butts. We should be able to do that. And that is what my experience. I just now remember what the original question was. That is what my experience in the school system has brought me to. That I want to help. I can't touch every child, but I can touch one. If I can touch one, as the Bible says, with math that is phenomenal. One can chase 1,000, and two can put 10,000 to flight. So if I have touched just one child, that's two. That's putting 10,000 people to flight because that one child will touch another, will touch another, will touch another, will touch another. And then they'll all go to the store and buy my book and I'll become a millionaire.
Yes, absolutely, and you did answer. Yes, yes, yeah, you did. You did answer my question, and I
I
do.
probably like 20 questions.
Yeah, but it's fine. Like, I understand that you're very passionate. We elaborate on things we're passionate on, and I definitely appreciate that. And you definitely did answer my question. One question I did want to what I wanted you to expand upon was, I know that you said that you left the school system and you were done with the school system because you were you felt as though the system wasn't understanding the needs of the children, and you felt like the children, they were trying to like coerce or force the children to adapt to the way they wanted them to adapt instead of adapting to the needs of the children at the time. So, could you explain a little bit about what you mean when you say you were just fed up and tired of the system not understanding the children?
Right. So when I was in the public system and I was in the special ed system, I used to call the room, the special ed room, I called it the island of misfit toys, because that is just where they tended to stick the children that they didn't have anything else to do with, that they didn't understand what was wrong with them, and they weren't really trying to figure out what's wrong with them. They just wanted to keep them out of the way so that they could deal with the other children. And I got so sick and tired of it, because I was in this classroom with, I want to say 9 children. They were all different ages. They were from first grade all the way up to fifth grade in one classroom. And all they ever really did all day was color pictures. And at this particular time, there was a large influx of teachers that came in from the Philippines, multiple. And and this is not a slight on the Filipino culture at all, but they were not prepared to deal with inner city children. So these poor little people they were very respectful, and they were very quiet, and they figured they were going to teach you the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees, and everything was going to be hunky dory, and it didn't work like that. The kids are screaming and they're fussing and they're throwing things, and the poor teachers just didn't know what to do with themselves, and they were getting no support from the administration, because the administration, they were just trying to fill slots for teachers. That's all they were interested in, not so much for the children, but just to fill some slots. And it got to the point for me, at the end of that first school year, I left the elementary school and I transferred to a high school. Now, when I left that elementary school, I came out with bleeding ulcers. I had chronic migraines. I had been rushed to the hospital by ambulance because one of the children caused me to have an accident so bad in the music room that I cracked my head on the concrete floor. I had to run into the boys' room and take out the flaming trash can because they tried to set the bathroom on fire, and I had to take it out and stomp the fire out. And I was just too through. So I moved on to a high school, which did not help at all. Within a couple of months at the high school, I ended up again at the emergency room because this poor little Filipino teacher was trying to teach math to students who did not care. And they got to fussing and fighting, and I'm just trying to be of assistance, and I ended up thrown onto the floor, and it just was a mess. And I said, you know what? This system is broken. And unfortunately, I don't have a voice. There was nothing that I could do from the inside because I was a quote unquote nobody. I didn't have any power. I was just, I was just a therapeutic aid. Who was I? I wasn't a government official or anything. I had no power, and our children were not getting anything, and I couldn't deal with it any longer. And plus, they were getting on my nerves. So I purposely left the school system and went to work at a cemetery because I needed some peace and quiet. And people say, "Oh, you worked with dead people?" I say, "Yeah." By the time we got them, they were already killed and chilled. I didn't have to deal with them. All we did was put them in the ground. That's it. I was the front desk receptionist. I took care of the live people that came in. I didn't touch dead folks. Although there was this one time that they delivered somebody's cremains to my desk, and I didn't know that there was somebody sitting on my desk, and it was just gross. But that's just a side note. After that, after I got myself mentally back together, I went back to the system, but I went back to early childhood, which is where was always my first love, working with babies and toddlers. However, what I found there is that the system is still broken in a different way, but still broken. How is it broken? Because I have, let's say, in most counties in the city, let's say that the teacher ratio for infants is 2 to 1, I believe. So if there's six children, six infants or toddlers in this class, there's supposed to be three teachers. I'm sorry, 3 to 1. There's supposed to be two teachers for six children. 9 times out of 10, there was one teacher for 4 or 5 children because somebody would call out or they didn't have enough staff to go around. Somebody had to go and fill in this room and that room, and the ratios were always off, which meant some of the children were being neglected. Not that it was purposeful, and not that the children were dirty and hungry or anything like that, but they were not getting the one-on-one attention that they needed. And then what would happen is the big boss would come from the corporate office, and that's when everybody would scramble and get everything clean because they knew that the boss was coming. The boss would come down and say, okay, I want all the children in this room that are this age to be doing this thing at this time because that's what the book says that they're supposed to be doing. Well, guess what? I work with these children every day. I know them intimately. I know what they're capable of and I know what they're not capable of. And just because they are 18 months old and Dr. B.F. Skinner, who is some kind of psychologist that's been dead for 60 years, wrote in his book that all the children are supposed to be able to do this at this time, doesn't mean that they can. And so they come down from the corporate office and they see that the children are not doing this thing. And they immediately, what? They jump on the teachers and say the teachers aren't doing their job. But the teachers are doing their job and they're doing it better than the administration because they're the ones that are in the classroom every day. So then we have what we call, thanks to our lovely former president, George W., who enacted the No Child Left Behind. What does this do? It does not accelerate the learning process so that these young people can catch up. What it does is dumb down the process so that the children can skate by. It is pushing them through a system before they are prepared to deal with the world. And so we send them out in the world and they're qualified to do nothing. They have basic, if that, reading and math levels. They're going out, we're feeding them to the wolves because we didn't care for them within the system. The system is continuously broken. There is a fallacy. There are discrepancies within the system. And there are not enough of us who have the passion to change it. So what I realized is that I couldn't change the system from the inside. What I had to do was come out of the system so that I could work with these children individually. And I've never been more pleased with the decision that I made. I have children that I've been nannying for years, children who have moved on to other states. And, they're all grown now. They're in high school, some of them. I still see them. I still talk to them. They still, hang out with Miss Briana because I've been able to give them something one-on-one that I would never have been able to give them in the classroom. As a matter of fact, some of the children that I nanny came out of the classroom that I was in, and they left their classrooms to come and be with me one-on-one full time. So that tells me that I made a good decision. And I'm sorry. It still makes me angry that these other children are being left behind, that these other children are being tossed aside and not being cared for. But I've done the best that I can individually with the babies that I've been given. That's why I left the system, because our system is broken.
Yes, and I definitely understand everything that you've said. I mean, it's a really really challenging space that we're in, and a lot of people don't like to talk about the discrepancies and the disparities between the inner city children and children from more elite, as they say. schools, but I don't really think that it's any different in terms of what you can teach, what you have the ability to teach children from all backgrounds. And if you give everybody the same amount of resources and support, we can all learn the same thing. It doesn't really matter whether you're black, white, or whatever. If you give us the same amount of resources, and if you provide us with the same amount of tools and techniques we need so that we can succeed, we can all accomplish the same thing. We can all get to our overall goal and maintain our purpose. But a lot of people don't want to invest their time, their energy, and sometimes even their money and their resources to do these things for our children. And to take a little detour back to your work as an author. And I know that I asked you earlier on about how your experience working in the school system, how that's had an impact on you, what you do as a writer, and as a radio personality. Who was your biggest influence for becoming an author, in terms of um, just starting a book publishing company, working with children, and just becoming seasoned in this world, as an author and in the book publishing industry? So, who are your influencers? Who are your biggest influences, I should say?
Without doubt. Well, first of all, let me say this: that comment that's up right now from Miss Cynthia Williams, I would like to say that that's my mother. Hi, mommy. So, my biggest. There's one person actually, and this ties in a lot of things that taught me the value of words, that taught me the power of poetry, who actually was a teacher when I was in the second grade. Her name was Miss Valeria Jenkins. I will never forget that woman. I loved her so much. And she was very big on literacy. She loved poetry and she shared that love with her students. She was so passionate about it, and she started us off with cute little poems by Shel Silverstein or Jack Prelutsky that were funny, and cute little poems, little children's poems. But she also introduced us to more serious poets. She introduced us to Langston Hughes, to Gwendolyn Brooks, to Nikki Giovanni, to Phyllis Wheatley. She introduced us to people that we never would have heard of under it had it not been for her. And I was actually in her class in the second grade when I was molested. And that was one way that I learned how to get my feelings out because I didn't speak them verbally, but I started writing. And it was thanks to her influence that I started writing. And that I truly believe that writing was one thing that kept me sane. I wouldn't be here if I had not have learned to use my words because that was truly my outlet. And I, to this day, I dedicated my first book to Mrs. Jenkins. I love her. I have tried. I've done everything short of hiring a private detective to find her. I think she's in Florida somewhere. I tracked her as far as Florida. But if she is still breathing, I'm going to find that woman just to let her know what an influence that she was on me. And since, I did say that that's my mommy, my mother is an influence on me as well. My mother is a writer. She doesn't like to think that she is, but my mother is an excellent writer. She is incredibly talented. She sits on a lot of her talents, but she is incredibly talented. But one of the things that I reverence my mother for is that she is one of the original strong Black women. She was, a single mother trying to raise two daughters in a harsh world. She was working, she was trying to survive, trying to keep us fed and clothed and roofed and everything else. And sometimes it wasn't easy. And unfortunately, there, things that happened because she wasn't always able to be there. But she kept persevering. She kept moving on. And there are so many people who leave their children out to dry. They don't really care. They say, you know what, I don't have time to deal with you right now. And they just ignore their children. They go, I'm gonna do my thing. But my sister and myself were my mother's world, and she did everything she could to help us, to love us, to sustain us. And that has been an influence to me as well. Even though she doesn't know it, she does now. My mother is like my best friend. I love my mother with every beat of my heart.
Yes, and I definitely see her in the comments. She supports every single show. I see her in the comments. Yeah, so I see her in the comments. She's definitely very supportive. I see her in the comments when I watch your show and when I watch everybody else's show. She's very supportive. I see her, you know, I can see her support, and I can feel it every time. I watch your show and I tune in and I see her. She chimes in and she remains active, and I can definitely recognize that as well. So I know that you um, you talk a lot about Maya Angelou being an influence. I've so Could you tell me about her and what an impact her, because she was recognized as a poet. She wasn't just an author, but particularly a poet. So how does she influence you as an
Yeah,
author?
my first love is poetry. And the one different thing about this book is that it is a mix of poetry and prose. It is not just I was born and then I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this. It's those things, but it is interspersed with different pieces of poetry that I've written throughout my life. Now, actually did not even become familiar with Maya Angelou until I was grown. I was maybe 22, 23 years old. And people would say to me, "Oh, you remind me so much of Maya Angelou, Maya Angelou." And I'd heard of her, but I didn't know her work. And then, somebody gave me one of her books, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I was immediately enthralled. As a matter of fact, as far as professional influences, she more than anyone influenced this book. Because even when she's writing prose, when I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing is part of her autobiography. And even though there isn't any poetry, so to speak, in that book, she writes with a poet's heart. And so I took that influence and I wrote in a way of poetry that wasn't always a poem, if that makes any sense at all. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me hold up. Let's see. I had actually pulled out a couple of things I intended. I said, well, maybe I'll share this and I'll share that, and I never got around to sharing anything because I was talking too much. But since this is the page that literally opened when I picked up the book, I will just read this one short piece, and this is something that it does to me. It doesn't sound like Maya Angelou. People say, "Oh, you sound just like Maya Angelou. You could be the next Maya Angelou." I don't want to be the next Maya Angelou. I want to be the first Briana Cabell. But I recognize that we take experience, we take influences from those that we admire. So this particular piece is quite literally called Untitled. So many unshed tears left to cry. I don't know why this time they are dry. I've cried these tears 1,000 times. I'm caught up in so many sad goodbyes, and every time a new part of me dies. Time has just begun, but oh, how it flies every time I count the stars in my eyes, praying my lows don't overshadow my highs, and hiding from prying fingers ready to reveal my disguise. The hidden truths and broken lies, so few answers to so many whys. My ups become downs and the fears start to rise. How much longer will I be bound by unbreakable ties? My breath becomes labored, I'm all out of tries. Darkness envelops my mournful sighs. Such a flood of emotion will surely capsize the hands of time that refuse clockwise, and still I wait, covering dry eyes for the unshed tears that I cannot cry.
Yes, that's very poetic, and even that short excerpt, I can definitely feel that. Where can and that leads me to the question. I know I'm going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. We had a few technical errors, so I'm going to go 5 minutes over, so to make up for that. But where can people purchase your book, listen to your show, and just follow your work? Because I know that you have a lot of things going on. So how can people find that?
I do have a lot of things going on. As I said, my show is the Uplift Show. It is on Awesome God Radio every Thursday at 8 p.m. And you can find that, of course, by going to Awesome God Radio here on Facebook, or you can look me up at The Uplift Show on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel that's called the Uplift channel where I upload all of my shows there. And also there's some other things that I have. I've got a couple of interviews with Vicky Winans, with Greg O'Quinn. I've got a few things that are hanging around on my YouTube channel as well. I have started. I love actually posting just pictures there of and and taking photos. I love building my channel too real great. Now, as far as posting, it's called Chase the Shadows in February. It's tailored to you. That can be found on Amazon.com. You can look it up by my name, which is Briana C. Cabell. Don't ask me what the C stands for because I ain't going to tell you. Briana C. Cabell. Just look me up on Amazon. You can also go to my website, which is simply brianacabell.com, and you can learn about some of the other things I do. Public speaking, I lead workshops, I do lots of different things, and it will also take you to the Uplift Show website and the Uplift Store. And the Uplift Store is available all of my books, including books that I have with other authors. There are framed poetry. There's a custom T-shirt line that I started. There's a whole lot of things there in the Uplift Store. So it's Christmas time. Y'all go do Christmas shopping at the Uplift Store. Again, that's www.brianacabell.com. And you can also find me on, well, no, you can't really find me on Twitter. I am on Twitter, but I never remember to post on Twitter. I need to take some lessons from you, Nelson, because you got it all over the Instagram and the Periscope and stuff. I don't know nothing about that stuff. Not at all. And I keep saying that I need to learn it so that I can be up to date, but whatever. It's good for me just to be able to do this little stuff on Facebook. I am not technologically inclined. This is not really my generation, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And the last thing I want to give a plug for is I have actually been given the opportunity. I am so excited and blessed to have been cast as the Lady in Purple in a upcoming production of For Color Girls here in the Baltimore stage. That is going to be at La Familia Arts and Entertainment Center, which is 836 Guilford Avenue. You can go to ticketleap.com to get tickets for that. Now, everybody always say, "I've seen the movie, I've seen the movie, I've seen the movie." The movie is excellent, but the play is something out of this world. The play's been around for a lot longer than the movie, and
Yeah,
you
right.
Brianna in all of her Lady in Purple glory. I've got some monologues and some things to say, and you might say, "Ooh, I can't believe Brianna said that," but it's in the play. I can't help it. I can't help it. I got to say what's in the play. I gotta follow my script. But if
Right.
you enjoyed the movie, and a lot of times people say they read the book in college, or they've seen the play years and years ago, this is going to be a phenomenal production. This is from the an Our Faith production. The director's name is Arona Carroll. She is phenomenal. I've seen a lot of her work. I went in to do my little read, and she immediately said, "You are the Lady in Purple." So purple is the color of royalty, and I am fairly royal. Thank you very much. So I will thank you again. If you're interested, please, again, you can go to ticketleap.com to purchase your tickets. They are $25, and the proceeds are benefiting the something. Is it muscular dystrophy? No,
Yes. Wait.
it's it's either muscular dystrophy or MS. It's one of those things you know what? Honestly, I support so many charities that I forget what I'm supporting sometimes. But the proceeds are going towards charity. So the play will be the last weekend in February, which is the 27th and the 28th. Again, that's here on Guilford Avenue in Baltimore. You won't regret it.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for being on my show, and I'll definitely keep in touch, and I'll definitely see where I can fit you in on another broadcast to share more about the work or any new um, any new projects you have in the works, and all of your pursuits. I know that I know you have a lot to share, and I know that you have a lot to bring to the table. So I again want to thank you, and I want to also still congratulate you because you were nominated for your show was nominated for a Spin Award. Uh,
I
this
was actually my second year being nominated. I was very
right.
proud. So, oh, somebody's listening.
Right. Yeah, so I want to congratulate you and thank you again for appearing on my show. And I hope that you have a great evening. And I know that the listeners are going to, really appreciate you for sharing what you've shared on this program and this platform. So thanks again.
You are very welcome. And I am very proud of you. You are a very, very sensitive, intelligent, and forward-thinking young man, and we definitely need more young men like you. And I'm hoping and praying that more of our young men here in Baltimore start looking up to men like you.
Thank you.
Keep on keeping on. And tell your mama I said what's up because I know she listening too.
Yes, she is. Yeah, thanks again.
All right, darling.
Okay, well, that wraps up a broadcast of The Beauty in Us, Our Reality. I'm your host, Nelson E. Brown. We went a little over time to that tonight because we had some technical difficulties, but I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Next week, we're going to have an award-winning author and book publisher and a New York Times bestselling author, Margaret Starbuck. She just released the book about online dating for Christian women. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be we're going to unpack a discussion about what it means to stay celibate and what it means to live a Christian lifestyle in terms of our relationships and dating and entering into the dating world. I mean, I'm telling you, we have so much. I'm not going to give too much away because I'm going to save it for next week. But I hope and pray that you guys enjoy the broadcast. I just hope and pray that you guys can continue to keep me in prayer because I've been through many transitions financially, emotionally, mentally throughout the course of this year. I'm still attending my therapy sessions and I'm still in the process of trying to persevere throughout all of the bumps in my journey. So I appreciate it. If you guys can continue to just keep me uplifted and keep me in prayer, I appreciate all of your support. We're entering into month 3 of the Beauty in Us Radio with me, Nelson E. Brown. So I encourage you guys to just make an appointment to meet me back here at 6 p.m. next week so that we can talk to Miss Margaret Starbuck, about what it means to be a Christian in our relationships, our romantic relationships, and in the dating world. And we're going to talk about her book and her work as an award-winning publisher and book publisher and author. So take care. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.